NASA just pulled the safety net. Dream Chaser is ready to fly in late 2026. But there's a problem. NASA removed their obligation to use it for ISS resupply. No guaranteed docking, no guaranteed missions. Just a free flyer demonstration. Why now after years of development? The answer is darker than you think. Former engineers are calling it RIP Chaser. With ISS deorbiting in 2030, Dream Chaser's window is closing fast. Is this a vote of no confidence or something worse? Let's dive right in. Remember when Aerospace's CEO laughed at SpaceX, called reusability just a dream? That clip aged like milk. But here's the twist. Dream Chaser might actually prove him right, just not the way anyone expected. Aerospace has been building this thing since the 2010s. A decade plus of engineering, billions in investment, government backing. And now? NASA just rewrote the rulebook mid-game. Let me break down what actually happened, because the official statements are masterclasses in corporate spin. The press release sounds optimistic. Flight demonstration provides flexibility, positions Dream Chaser as a national asset, addresses pressing national security challenges. Read between the lines. NASA's actual move? They removed their contractual obligation to order ISS resupply missions. Those guaranteed flights under CRS-2? Gone. Optional now. Contingent on success. Translation: we're not betting on you anymore. Even more telling, Dream Chaser won't dock with ISS on its first flight. It'll be a free flyer demonstration. That's space industry code for, we need to see if this thing actually works before we let it anywhere near our $150 billion space station. Here's what makes Dream Chaser so challenging, and why NASA might be backing away. This isn't a simple capsule like Dragon. It's a lifting body spaceplane that has to nail 4 incredibly difficult things simultaneously: rocket ascent, orbital operations, hypersonic re-entry, and runway landing. That combination has exactly one precedent in history: the space shuttle. And we all know how that story ended. The shuttle was magnificent engineering, but it was also a maintenance nightmare. Fragile, expensive. Those 24,000 heat shield tiles, each one had to be individually inspected after every flight. One foam strike, one damaged tile, and you get Columbia. Dream Chaser uses only 2,000 tiles. Better, right? Except each tile is unique in size, thickness, and shape. Each one custom fitted to handle re-entry stress at specific locations. Sierra claims their material is stronger, more resilient, but claims is doing a lot of work in that sentence. Because here's the thing, they haven't proven it yet, not in actual spaceflight conditions. Now this is where it gets really interesting. A former Dream Chaser engineer, now working at SpaceX, posted something that should make everyone pause. I spent years tiling this ship, drilling composites, and making every detail perfect. Management was a disaster and even tried to convince us they were on par with SpaceX. Now that I work on Starship, comments like that sound even more childish than before. RIP Chaser, never to be. That's not an outside critic. That's someone who physically built this vehicle, tile by tile, telling you it's doomed. When I tried to interview him, he couldn't. SpaceX employees don't do unauthorized media, but his public comment says everything. Management issues, unrealistic comparisons, internal dysfunction, and when Aerospace posted their optimistic spin about national security missions and flexibility, his response was blunt. RIP Chaser. Let's talk about why Dream Chaser is struggling, and it's not just technical challenges. SpaceX's Dragon is already doing everything Dream Chaser promises, except the runway landing. And honestly, NASA doesn't seem to care about runway landings anymore. Dragon splashes down, gets recovered, refurbished, and flies again. It's proven, reliable, economical at scale. Dragon has completed dozens of cargo missions and crewed flights. It's the workhorse. When NASA needs something done, they call SpaceX. Not because they love Elon Musk, but because Dragon delivers. Starliner? Even with all its problems, software glitches, thruster failures, that awkward, uncrewed return. It still managed half a crewed mission. It's flown. It's docked. NASA's seen what it can do. Dream Chaser, 0 orbital flights, 0 docking attempts, 0 proof of concept, just ground tests and promises. ISS deorbits in 2030. That's 5 years away. If Dream Chaser launches in late 2026, which really means 2027 in space industry time, how many operational missions can it realistically fly before ISS goes away? 2, 3, maybe 5 if everything goes perfectly? That's not enough to recoup development costs, not enough to prove long-term viability, not enough to justify continued investment. NASA knows this math. They've known it for months. That's why they pulled the guaranteed missions. They're hedging their bets, keeping options open for commercial space stations that might exist in the 2030s. But here's the brutal question. Will anyone want Dream Chaser for those future stations? Or will Dragon and newer vehicles dominate that market too? Aerospace's pivot to national security and defense demonstrations sounds impressive. It's also a red flag. When a commercial space vehicle loses its primary customer and starts talking about military applications, that's usually desperation talking. The DoD has its own requirements, its own timelines, its own budget battles. Breaking into that market isn't easy, especially with an unproven vehicle. Plus, what does the military need with a winged spaceplane? The X-37B already does classified orbital missions and runway landings. It's been doing it since 2010. Dream Chaser would be competing against a vehicle with 14 years of proven operational history. Dream Chaser is starting to look a lot like SLS, another legacy program with massive cost overruns, endless delays, and increasingly questionable justification for existence. Both are technically impressive. Both represent thousands of hours of skilled engineering work. Both have passionate teams who believe in the mission, and both are being overtaken by cheaper, faster, more innovative alternatives. SLS costs over $2 billion per launch. Starship aims for under $100 million. Dream Chaser is competing against Dragon, which has economies of scale that Aerospace can't match. This is the hard reality of modern spaceflight. Being technically capable isn't enough. You have to be cost-effective, reliable, and faster than the competition. Back in 2021, when I started this channel, people kept telling me to cover Dream Chaser. It's going to revolutionize cargo delivery. Runway landings change everything. Aerospace is the next big thing. I didn't make that video, not because I was prescient, but because nothing was happening. Every year the launch date moved. Every update was progressing well without actual progress. 4 years later, we're still waiting. And now the waiting might be permanent. Here's what nobody wants to say out loud. Most ambitious space projects fail, not because the engineering is impossible, but because the economics don't work. Dream Chaser needed 3 things to succeed: technical excellence, financial backing, and market demand. It might have the first one. The second is getting shaky. The third just evaporated when NASA pulled those guaranteed missions. Without ISS flights to justify continued development, Aerospace needs to find new customers fast. Commercial space stations that don't exist yet, military missions that might never materialize, space tourism with a vehicle designed for cargo. None of those are sure bets. All of them require Dream Chaser to prove itself first. And you can't prove yourself without flying. Best case scenario. Dream Chaser launches in late 2026. The free flyer demonstration succeeds, and NASA cautiously gives them a few ISS missions before 2030. Aerospace uses that validation to secure commercial station contracts for the 2030s. Realistic scenario? Launch slips to 2027 or 2028. The demonstration reveals issues that need addressing. By the time Dream Chaser is truly operational, ISS is gone and the market has moved on. Worst case, the vehicle becomes a cautionary tale, an engineering achievement that never achieved its mission. Like so many beautiful spacecraft before it, the X-33, the Venture Star, the Space Shuttle after Challenger. When I reached out to Aerospace for this video, they politely declined. The team is fully focused on vehicle testing. Fair enough. They're in crunch mode, trying to make this work. But their silence speaks volumes. When you're confident about your project, you want to talk about it. When things are precarious, you keep your head down and hope the engineering saves you. This isn't just about Dream Chaser. It's about an industry pattern where legacy aerospace struggles against newer, more agile competitors. Boeing versus SpaceX, Arianespace versus SpaceX, ULA versus SpaceX, now Aerospace versus SpaceX. Notice the common denominator? It's not that SpaceX is perfect. Starship has exploded multiple times, but they iterate fast, learn from failures, and keep costs down through vertical integration and reusability. Traditional aerospace companies move slower, cost more, and face brutal competition from a company that can fail upward through sheer velocity of innovation. Dream Chaser represents old-school aerospace thinking, meticulous development, government contracts, conservative timelines. That worked in the Apollo era. It doesn't work now. If Dream Chaser fails, it sends a message. Innovation in space requires speed and risk tolerance that traditional contractors can't match. It means NASA's bet on commercial partners paying off exactly how SpaceX advocates predicted. Not through spreading the wealth, but through Darwinian selection where only the fastest survive. It validates every criticism about cost-plus contracts, slow development cycles, and corporate structures that prioritize process over results. And it leaves Dragon as the uncontested king of cargo and crew transport, at least until Starship becomes operational. Is that good for space exploration? Maybe. Competition drives innovation, but monopolies, even benevolent ones, make people nervous. So we're watching this play out in real time. Dream Chaser's fate isn't just about one spaceplane. It's about what kind of space industry we're building and who gets to participate in it. So here's the bottom line. NASA just showed us who they believe in, and it's not Dream Chaser. This isn't just about one spacecraft failing. It's about the brutal economics of modern spaceflight. Move fast or get left behind. If Dream Chaser launches in 2027 and nails that demonstration, maybe there's a future. But with ISS deorbiting in 2030, the clock is ticking. And right now, Dragon owns the market that Dream Chaser was built to compete in. What this really tells us? The space industry is splitting into winners and losers faster than ever. Traditional aerospace is struggling against companies that iterate quickly, fail fast, and keep costs low. That's the new reality. Here's my question for you. Should NASA have kept supporting Dream Chaser, or is this the right call? Drop your thoughts in the comments. I genuinely want to hear what you think. This is Space Hub, where we break down what's actually happening in space, not just the hype. If you want more real analysis like this, hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications so you never miss when these stories develop. Because trust me, this isn't over. Dream Chaser's next move will tell us everything about who survives in the new space race. Thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next one.